coming to you live from the rural desert outside Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Hodges, and I am the host of the Common Sense Show, the show that brings you cutting-edge news and guests that are in the know. We're going to bring on George Uhrer. And George Uhrer, as I'm sure all of you know, is an economics expert. He was formerly a news director in Seattle from 1970 to 1983. He holds a master's degree in business administration with a focus on long-wave economics, which we're going to really get into tonight. He's a co-holder on 4 patents related to battery state of charge instrumentation and has a patent pending on measuring user-friendliness of enterprise software. He's been senior vice president of an international airline, a vocational school president, and has just wrapped up, well, not too long ago, a 2-year sales and marketing assignment for a major software company. His website, urbansurvival.com, focuses on long-wave economics. And some of you are very familiar with Cliff from the WebBot, and George and Cliff are good friends, and they hooked up in June of 2001 as he started corresponding with Cliff about WebBot, which uses the Internet to forecast future events. And some of the highest rated shows we've had in the history of the Common Sense Show has been when Cliff has been our guest, and I'm sure tonight will be no different. So let's go to Texas and welcome our very special guest, George Uhrer. Hi, George. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. I almost feel like I should say something Texican like, howdy, partner.
Well, that's okay. Well, I understand, in addition to this very impressive resume that I just read to our listening audience, that you also make your living off the land.
Well, we have a few goats, just a few goats. Most of what I do is private consulting for small to medium-sized companies that have strategic issues that they're trying to deal with, whether it's long-term positioning of product and company or acquisition or somebody selling off a company, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's not what we're going to deal with tonight. We've got some landmark issues that we've got to discuss, and as soon as we come back from the break, we're going to jump right into it, and with your participation too, listening audience. Stay tuned, everybody. More with George Uhrer and Annie DeRiso after these messages. That's what the Common Sense Show is all about, trying to restore power to the people. And I know, George, you're going to have our listening audience sitting on the edge of their seats here shortly. So I want to welcome you back into the show. And Annie, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. And hi, George. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Last time I saw you, I think we were all out in New Mexico someplace.
Yeah, we met up, what was that, 4 or 5 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So good to hear you both.
Well, good. Thank you.
Too.
George, we cover a lot on this show about swine flu, the possible manufacturing of it, in terms it was made instead of developed naturally, the dangers of the swine flu vaccine, and what we feel is the distinct probability that these vaccinations are going to be made mandatory. Do you have a position on that topic?
It's not really an economics topic, except it really is an economics topic because, like so many other things that go on in the world, ultimately a lot of human behavior, especially up at the top of the food chain, relates to money. I guess I want to put it in perspective. If you remember what had happened as the lead-in to 911, we had just been through the tech wreck. The Internet bubble was in the midst of collapsing, and we were on the verge as a country of waking up to the idea that we were through with a 5-wave supercycle blow-off that the Internet frenzy was all about. And in fact, even through the nominal high in the Dow of over 14,000 in October of 2007, even using the Federal Reserve's data, which understates some of the effects of monetary debasement, it's true that if you took the 11,722 high of the Dow in, I think it was March of 2000, or early spring of 2000, and multiplied that times even the Fed's inflation deflator, you would find that on a purchasing power basis, the stock market has never come anywhere near the purchasing power that it had in 2000. In other words, $100 in the market in 2000 would buy you more goods and services than $140 would in the market later on.
Well, George, isn't that the product of having a privately controlled banking system that can make money out of thin air?
Well, yeah, unfortunately it is. The United States, for the longest period of time, had a relatively stable economy. Yeah, we had our regional booms and our busts, and the railroad barons came and laid waste, large sections of the country. We had periodic panics and so forth. But by and large, a dollar was a dollar. And in just to give you an example, in 1913, when the Fed came into existence, a steak dinner was about $1.50. And today, a steak dinner is approximately 20 to 25 times that, depending on what kind of steak you're having, right?
Yes.
But the purchasing power of the dollar compared with what it was in 1913 is about 4.6 cents.
Amazing. And what I find even more incredible is how most of us have to stumble upon this kind of information, because it's certainly not taught to us when we're in school.
Well, there's no real reason to. You see, one of the problems, and we'll believe me, we'll circle back to the swine flu issue in a little while. One of the problems from an education standpoint, having worked in the field of higher education for a number of years, as a college admissions director and school president and so forth, one of the problems is that curriculum is like the Holy Grail in higher ed. And curriculum is something which is basically the summary of what is to be taught. And if a school district was to go out and start teaching that the Federal Reserve is lying when they refer to their G19 report as the Consumer Credit Report, when it's really a consumer debt report, it's that kind of stuff that never makes it past peer review or through accreditation processes. And so what we have is the academics being hornswoggled into the peer review groupthink, and the peer review groupthink is in a kind of a trance state. And so what you end up with is paradigm defending. And when someone like myself comes along and says, guess what? Prices are not going up. The purchasing power of your money is going down. Now, that's obvious to anybody who thinks about it, because they're simply printing a lot more money. In fact, on my wall, let me just look and see how much money I have on my wall. 1, 2, 3, 300 trillion plus 5 billion plus 100 billion. Now, those are all Zimbabwe dollars. But I've got that much stuck up on my wall here in my office that subscribers have sent in, and I love it. I mean, we used to make light of Confederate money, and now the rage is to make fun of Zimbabwe. Look at them. They're just printing up money like crazy, and yet at the same time, the Obama administration has come up with a new task force which will be trying to extend Western influence over Africa. The Secretary of State is putting a lot of focus on meetings, and so is Europe, meeting with Robert Mugabe, who's of course the head of Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe is sort of a pariah, because for all of what people may say about Mugabe, there is a little bit of truth to what the guy has been saying about the Western economy. And
which is what?
Basically, which is that hey, these are bankers that go into countries where they have no standing, and they offer cheap or free international loans, in return for which small countries are are held hostage.
Yes.
They're held hostage for things like their waterworks, their sewage systems, their natural resources, their banking franchises, their cell phone towers, anything that could be made fungible and could be used to secure a loan. That's what the international banksters do. If you haven't read it, read Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. So you see the game.
Yes.
You see the game.
Well, I'm familiar with what happened in Bolivia at the turn of the century, where when the World Bank went in to collect and monetize and hand over the infrastructure of the water of Bolivia to Bechtel, they even got the legislature there to make trapping rainwater for drinking purposes illegal.
Well, and it's the same thing that happened in Iraq, where today it's illegal in Iraq to hold over seed from season to season, even if you're an Iraqi citizen, even if they're heritage seeds that have been in your family's farm for X, number of hundreds and hundreds of years. Sorry about that, but you got to buy government licensed seed, because the theory is that you could be supplying terrorists if we don't know how much seed you've got, right?
I smell Monsanto in Iraq. Is that what you're talking about?
I won't single anybody out. I mean, Iraq is really just a money festival. You saw where Biden was dropped in there in the last week or so to go up north, talk to the Kurds, and make sure that the oil keeps flowing once it gets turned on. And by the way, now that the oil deals are done and just got done in the last 3 months, you notice how it's all of a sudden, we've got to move more troops into Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And yet my friends in the military are going, what are we doing in Afghanistan? Does anybody besides them remember that the guys who were involved held Saudi passports? No. We didn't invade Saudi Arabia, did we? No, we're invading every place but Saudi
When we
Arabia.
come back from the break, I'm going to ask you about the Central Asian pipeline. I'm sure you have a lot to say about that. More with George Ear and my co-pilot tonight, Andy DeRiso, after a word from our sponsors.